man.
Hey, Joel.
Yes.
Shut up, Joel, because we're on the weekly poll. I had to do it again because I realized that since we're doing a long video, they can't pull this off the internet. So I had to record separately just to help out.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah. Yeah, they'd be pulling like a 6-hour stream.
Yeah, then we pull out a 6-hour stream, half of which is us failing at a Destiny Nightfall.
Where are the Starbursts at? Dan, are the Starbursts over there? Awesome.
Man, Robbie coming a prima donna over here. I will not do the show if I don't have starbursts.
Yeah, he's getting his Starburst to get this rolling. The sub reminds me of Val Venus' shirt that I said, I came, I saw, I came again.
Dude, Val Venus is like from 3 towns over from me. He actually owns a school, like very close to me.
Does he? That's
Yes, he
weird.
does.
That is really weird.
Very.
Apparently.
Like if in an alternate reality where Joel wanted to become a wrestler instead of a podcaster, I would probably go to his school.
I still think that dream's a possibility, Joel.
I don't know, man. I'm 20 years old. That might be a little old to start.
If you believe you can achieve, Joel.
No, the only thing holding you back is your own dreams and your weight.
Yeah, don't let your dreams be dreams. And you're, oh, dude, you're an asshole. Really? Wow.
Actually, the funny thing, my favorite dude right now is a guy called Kevin Owens, who's about my height and build, and yet the dude just doesn't get tired and sails through the air and does like freaking Phoenix splashes and
you
shit.
just made the list. Dude, Kevin Owens is hilarious.
List to Jericho. Fuck yeah. Another Canadian.
Chris Jericho, man. You want to talk about a long-standing guy? Okay, so.
Oh, well, I was going to tell him what's going on real quick.
But that's what I was going to say. Like, what's the
So
episode?
today's weekly poll, we are here as usual. It is me, it is Rob, it is Joel. We are trying to get back into the swing of things. Rob and I have been streaming with the rest of the people over here at Comicstorian on a regular basis, so we're trying to find like a middle ground for everything. But you will notice the emotes have changed for subs. The sub symbols are now variations on the Flash, and all of our Twitch alerts are completely changed over.
Yeah.
The Sal and Tiffany are out due to a family emergency today. They requested we don't talk much about it, so when they're ready to reveal things, they'll talk about it.
Yep.
And the fourth guy is actually Houston. He streams with us, and he edits our videos, and he has no mic. We just wanted to fill the space so it didn't look weird.
Yeah. So you'll see him just sitting there. Literally, you will
He's
hear
our
nothing from him.
Make-A-Wish kid.
He's going to eat pretzels in honor of Faust eating chicken.
Oh, man. I still can't believe you did that. Just a looped video of Faust eating chicken. People thought he was actually there.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
That's at least Houston's actually there. He'll react to you. He's got the chat up. No, he doesn't. You do, actually? Yeah. His mic is just off, though. So I wanted to start today's topic with there's 2 big topics I wanted to talk about today, okay? And one of which I want to kick this off with. I know I said that we should do more timely or green pastures content, but I think we really need to talk about the Inhumans.
Yeah.
And the Inhumans are now no longer season 1. It is the complete series.
Is that official now?
Yes.
I know everyone kept going. It's official now, 100%.
Yeah.
This is the only season that will exist.
That's rough. That's
Which
unfortunate.
surprises nobody because
And this is the argument I was making earlier when we were playing Destiny. By the way, if you want to see me, Rob, Houston, and Dan play video games on a regular basis, join us on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday when we do various games.
I forgot to bring my PlayStation.
Well, you don't need to because we're not going to play. We're doing a normal podcast.
Oh, I thought you wanted to do like the PlayStation after.
I mean, we probably could. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out then. So anyway, though, So the issue that I have with the Inhumans is, I get why they wanted to do it. I get it. I do. They wanted to have a situation where the X-Men. They wanted to recreate the X-Men, but who? No one. We've been doing this for a while now, right? Mm-hmm. I have never had a situation where someone came over to me and was like, "My favorite superhero is Black Bolt. Do you have any information on the Inhumans because of how much I love them?"
Yeah.
This is not a Iron Fist with his obscure fan base or a Luke Cage with his obscure fan base. This is the Inhumans, and I have never met an Inhumans fan. Ever.
It's the niche of niche. Usually it's like, oh, I like the Inhumans, but only because I read Fantastic Four and they were supporting characters there for a long time.
The War of the Four Cities. Man, dude, I love that story.
It's good shit.
The
It's good
Space
shit.
Inhumans. Dude, it's so cool.
I like the concept of the Inhumans, like the Game of Thrones-esque kind of thing, the Kingdom
Yeah.
Strike. I do like the concept. They've never been put into practice properly.
No.
The
well,
best
No,
thing the Inhumans
no.
have ever done was Infinity, when Black Bolt blew away at Thanos and crashed all the New Atilians.
Keep your secrets.
Yes.
Carry them with you to the grave. Like, smash his face. God, I love that scene.
That's the best moment the
It is
Inhumans have
amazing.
ever had.
So the best moment of the Inhumans is when they get beat up.
I was going to say, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. made pretty good use of them. They were the backbone of that show for multiple seasons.
Okay, see, that's the funny thing. That's the craziest thing about it. I was more excited to see the Inhumans and like the whole story of the Inhumans in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. than I was in the Inhumans show. Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spent so much time building them up. Like, we have all this build-up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then it's like, okay, so, like, if you guys want the whole story about the Inhumans, now you got to go see this. It's like, but no, just throw them in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., though.
Yeah,
like,
and they were made more special on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because for, like, that first couple seasons, you didn't see superpowered individuals. So when they're like, look, there's going to be a bunch of superpowered individuals, and you're going to get powers, but you're going to get them by the Inhumans. It's like, all right, fine then, cool, make everyone an Inhuman, go for it.
Yeah.
But even that show, I feel like, because they... See, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had great potential to make people like the Inhumans. Or at least the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. followers to like the Inhumans. But then they chose to like not use any significant Inhuman.
Yeah, it's like all the Inhumans that... Well, they used the ones from Inhumanity and Inhuman. From... God, who was it that wrote Inhuman? From Charles Soule's Inhuman run. But that was about it. And if you weren't reading it then, which almost nobody was... Then, like, I mean, which was a great story, but almost nobody was. Because it was literally Lash running around and just saying, you're not worthy of being an Inhuman and killing people. Mm-hmm. And that was basically it.
Who do we have? We had Lash, we had Nausea.
Yeah.
That was about it.
You
like,
had,
Quake, but Quake wasn't really in.
That's what I mean. Like, we didn't get anyone, worth it. Like, they didn't even mention the Royal Family or Medusa or, like, outside of, like, a quick little, the Royals or something like that. Like, they never brought them in, and now they're going to have their own show.
Yeah.
So you took all the worst Inhumans. Basically, you did. Okay, you had a couple with a couple cool powers, but you didn't give us enough to separate them from the X-Men. You gave us the worst Inhumans for the most part, with the cheesiest animation or the cheesiest graphics, right? And then you're like, oh, you know that cheesy portion of our show that we didn't develop? Now it has its own show. Why would anyone care?
Yeah,
it was like a little backward.
Huh?
Was that John?
I was saying it was a little backward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like making a show about Factor 3. Nobody knows who Factor 3 is. Factor 3 was a crappy X-Men villain team made by Roy Thomas in the 1960s. Nobody knows or cares who they are. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to make it... Or like the Exiles. Oh, the Exiles was kind of cool, because after House of M, they just toured the multiverse and got beat up all the time. But it was still kind of cool. It was still an interesting concept. But that's... See, okay, so here's the things about the Inhumans. The biggest problem the Inhumans face, because you pointed this out with Iron Man, and that was the craziest thing. One of the biggest problems Marvel had, if Benny is to be believed.
Oh, read the reports. They've come out and said it.
Yeah, like they were trying to convince people that he wasn't a robot, that he was actually a man in a metal suit.
Yeah,
and like, okay, so that's Iron Man. All right, now Iron Man's far more popular than the Inhumans are. I mean, at least people knew who he was. But like before the Inhumans show came out, and before they were even a talking point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I could walk around with a picture of Black Bolt and ask people, like, who is this? And they wouldn't be able to tell me. Most people still probably couldn't. And so because of that, like, you're talking about characters who are super obscure that almost nobody really cares about, and it's a fresh starting point. The MCU, if anything, has shown us you can take characters who are relatively obscure and make them really popular. And so when the opportunity comes along to make the Inhumans, like, a major force, like something really cool and get people to care, well, then suddenly it's like, well, here's this really crappy show with crappy CGI, and you have even less reason to care now than you did before. And so it was like, all right, well, then whatever. You know.
Splooge, Rob. Redneck Wrecker has gone ahead and subscribed.
Nice.
Dan from the background.
Splooge.
I said that. We've been saying Redneck Wrecker's name like that on the stream, and I just took Dan's line, and you should have seen his eyes. Like, this was Dan.
Just pure betrayal.
Wow.
Oh, and Decepticon 690 has subscribed.
17 months in a row.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, definitely.
The chat brings up an interesting point too about the Inhumans, where it's like, you know, a lot of the blame probably has to be thrown at the feet of Scott Buck, the dude who already turned in the not so great first season of Iron Fist. So it's like, hey, you messed up the first time. How'd you like a second swing at it?
Dude, I enjoyed Iron Fist. I liked Iron Fist.
I did. I'm a huge Danny Rand fan, and I could not stand that show. And you know why? Because he kept reminding me that he is Danny Rand of Kunlun of the Immortal Iron Fist.
In case you forgot, I'm the Immortal Iron Fist.
I liked all the Iron Fist parts. I could not stand all the Meacham parts. That was like the Meacham starring Danny Rand.
Splooge that one, buddy.
Yeah, the Meachams. Yeah, it was kind of weird. Splooge. Ichio Basaki. No idea how to pronounce that name. Splooge. Yeah, we're just gonna call you. Ichi. There we go.
There you go.
And okay, and some people, and you brought it up again, and nobody knows who the Inhumans are, and we've been talking about that. But that does kind of make you think, like, Marvel is really starting to yank on the obscurity train.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we have a Cloak and Dagger show coming out. Who the hell knows about Cloak and Dagger?
That's a freeform thing. And if
but
you've
it's
been
still
reading,
they approved it, regardless of them making it or not. They approved it.
Well, okay, that seems to be one of the things that Marvel's doing though, because I've kind of noticed that there's like the official Marvel stuff. And then, like, the Marvel subsidiary stuff is almost what it feels like.
Right.
So, like, the official Marvel stuff is Netflix and, like, the movies. And then, like, the subsidiary stuff is, like, over there on Freeform. And, like,
it's
over
the
there
riskier
on IMAX
gamble ones.
and ABC.
It's the ones they can take a gamble on, I think, where it's like, look, we don't know if Cloak and Dagger could work, but it might. Here you go, Freeform.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a weird situation. And here's a funny thing. See, like, there's stuff that you can do with the Inhumans. Like, case in point, Inhumans Volume 2. I always say Inhumans Volume 2 is one of the coolest stories that was done. It was Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee, and it was Black Bolt who said, okay, so, like, we should move to the moon. But if I go to my people and say, hey, we should move to the moon, they're going to say, absolutely not. So what does he do? He engineers an invasion of his own country in order to trick his people into believing it's in their best interest to move to the moon. And then they move to the moon. But it's literally a king who sabotaged his own kingdom to convince his people that he was right. And so it's like the most underhanded, shady thing. But it's a super cool story. And you can build up to that using Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And that's what blows my mind. I feel like Inhumans would have stood a real shot, even with the cheap-ass animation.
Yeah.
If 2 whole seasons involved the royal family, and you got to know them, and you got to know what they're about, and you got to understand the Inhumans better than these, like, oh, just people turning into them. Like, they introduced us to that crew, then your spinoff shows up.
Yeah.
You can't spin off a race of people when we don't know the one. Like, they didn't even put Quake or anyone in the pilot. Like, you'd think they would have been like, oh, Quake, episode 1, she's yanked into the Inhumans, and they would be like, you liked Quake and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you 3 guys? We've got Daisy over here now.
Yeah.
That's the gap bridger. That should have been like a 2-episode crossover event, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the first episode of Inhumans, because they are in space, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now.
I mean, that's what they did with The Flash. CW didn't even trust The Flash was going to be popular. If you look at the history of when Barry Allen showed up in Arrow, that was intended to be a 2-episode thing, and if people asked for it, they would try another thing. That's why the actual show from Arrow to Flash premiere is a little wonky continuity-wise, because they had to rewrite some elements to make it its own show.
Yeah. Well, I would have treated the shows like comics, right? Like, I would have said, okay, we're going to treat the Inhumans and we're going to treat Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like Fantastic Four from the 1960s. Like, we're going to have the Inhuman royal family that shows up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then we'll turn around and take the Inhuman royal family and we'll spin it out into its own show if people care. And there's a perfect way to do that, because you've got Daisy Johnson running around as Quake, working for S.H.I.E.L.D., causing problems. And then you just have the Inhuman royal family who shows up. She just gets whisked away by Lockjaw. Like, just some giant dog shows up and then just, like, bites her arm and just teleports her away. And then she shows up in front of the Inhuman royal family, and they're like, you are not what an Inhuman is supposed to be. Like, we're going to teach you what Inhumans are supposed to be. And, like, it's literally just a subplot for the entire season. Or maybe it's just a whole season unto itself. And it's her just learning about what it means to be an Inhuman and the whole history of the Inhumans and all that stuff, which all gets wrapped into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then, in turn, people would probably be more receptive to that. So you say, okay, then we're going to spin out on the Inhuman show. And we're just going to give you, like, the whole, Inhuman royal family off doing their whole thing.
What they could have done, Karnak teaches her for that whole season. And they hype up the royal family the whole time, but we don't see Black Bolt and Medusa to the end of the season when they say that they're going to go fight against Maximilian, whoever
Maximus the Mad.
Maximus the Mad. And then you go, oh, what happened with Maximus the Mad? Check out Inhumans episode 1.
Yeah.
That's all you would have to do.
Yeah.
And I would have been like, okay. And then I would have been like, oh, your dog looks like shit. Fuck it.
I was going to say, out of all of us, is Benny the only one who's actually seen it?
No, I've seen
it.
No.
When did you see it?
I went to go see it in IMAX.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
When?
You guys had your whole day to yourselves, and yeah.
Apparently Rob saw it. I haven't seen it.
I had a Rob day to myself.
They didn't do IMAX shows in my area in Canada, which I felt gypped because I was the one for the longest time making excuses for the show. Then I'm like, oh, fuck, they're not playing it in my area? Well, goddamn.
They were like, specifically, Joel, you will not have it. It's just no.
It seemed that way. It felt like the heat death of the universe was conspiring against me and me alone to not see the Inhumans. But then everyone said it was bad, so I felt like I dodged a bullet.
It sounds like you did, from the way this is all sounding.
Pay them IMAX prices.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where I wanted to be able to, like, give it an honest review by being like, hey, look, here's what I legitimately thought about it. It's poorly written. It's got bad special effects. It does not feel like a Marvel Cinematic Universe show. It feels like a sci-fi TV show from like 10 years ago. is what it feels like.
Didn't someone famously compare it, saying it's like one of those Nickelodeon genre shows, only with a bunch of Marvel stuff taped to it?
The fact of the matter is, the TV superhero shows in general are spreading way too thin. We're going to start reaching into areas that aren't going to succeed. Like that's just what's
There's
going to
one
happen.
every night of the week now.
Huh? Oh yeah, no,
there's
Black
one
Lightning.
every
I
night
wonder
of
how
the
well
week.
Black Lightning is going to do. Even if it's the coolest show ever, you can't tell me that CW is not sitting there like they're cannibalizing themselves at this point.
Yeah, people are going to make concessions. Like people are going to sit down.
I already don't watch Supergirl or Legends of the Tomorrow.
Yeah,
I gave up on Arrow, and Flash only watched when somebody says something cool happened.
I've heard Arrow's
I think
gotten
most people gave
super
up on
good.
Arrow.
Like I've heard Arrow's gotten really good. Like it's gotten much better. Which I need to get caught up because I didn't even watch any of the last season.
Yeah, apparently last season was the good one. I gotta watch all of that.
I hear mixed things.
Yeah.
You're the Arrow
it's
fan. Did you give up on it?
No, I'm the Green Arrow fan. I never liked Arrow, the show.
I am Bruce Wayne, also known as Arrow.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Rob.
it's-
You took the words right out of my. Do you think there'll come a point where CW is like, okay, we gotta actually maybe let one of these shows go now? Where it's like, look, Oliver Queen will still live in the DC shared universe, but maybe his show just won't be on TV anymore, and he'll just come back for guest spots. Do
Yeah.
you think that would be something they could do?
You're gonna have to because Constantine does that.
That's right, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
poor
Arrow was
Constantine.
never as big of like basically a ratings flop as like Constantine was. So
This is a good one.
Which
Why
is
is Krypton
tragic.
still a thing? Because Gotham,
Yeah, I-
for some reason, gets views.
yeah,
I know. Who is watching that show?
Natalie watches it. My wife watches Gotham and loves it. So, I mean,
She's the one then. She's keeping the show
she's the
afloat.
only
Just
one
keep it alive.
that has one viewer a week.
God, man.
They just sit there on set like, let's make a really good one for Nat, everybody. Let's just really pull together and make a really
Who's
good
this one
show
person
for her.
watching our show? We have to call them and thank them.
I mean, I've watched it like after the first season, which was the worst season ever. Somebody at Warner Brothers or DC said, "Do your own thing; it's perfectly fine," and they've gone off the rails since then. It's
They really
as long
have.
as you realize it is like you are never going to get a real Batman. You're going to get James Gordon, and he's on his own adventures. It's not bad. It's like crazy cop show thing. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I stopped watching it a while ago. Last time I stopped, it reminded me of NYPD Blue with like DC characters.
Well, yeah, but now we have like a Scarecrow and a mask and an actual Venom's being passed around with the hulked out guys, and Azrael showed up in the Court of the Owls.
Oh,
But
that's right.
not
They
the
did Court of the
Azrael,
Owls.
you know.
Yeah, so like you're getting some crazy comic book shit now.
Yeah.
First
And,
season
like,
was
Alfred-
like, well, it's still kind of real.
Yeah.
Here's the Balloon Man.
Oh God,
Balloon
yes,
Man.
episode 2, Balloon Man.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne
But
with
still
his
not
ghetto
my
suit.
favorite guy they invented. My favorite guy they invented was Pointy Stick Assassin Man, who killed people with a pointy stick.
I remember him, or the guy that kidnapped the bus of kids.
That's right.
Yeah, man, that sounds like 1930s, 1940s Batman. That's what that sounds
It
like.
really was. Like literally, I bet someone in the writer's room was like, no, we need to make this serious like Christopher Nolan, and everyone else in the room was like, nah, man, Adam West, I'm going to make this like the Batman show I remember.
Yeah.
We're gonna find like a middle ground. But yeah, they had Azrael, they had Court of the Owls. They've got their own lore. This season, we're gonna get Batboy. Have you seen
Yes.
Batboy, Rob?
No.
Looks like Big Daddy because he's wearing the mask but with no ears.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Has
pull
it
it up for
quite
Rob while we
committed.
talk about this. There he is.
Has it quite
That's
committed.
Bruce in the very subtle Batman costume. I'm gonna post it in the chat for them.
That kind of looks ridiculous.
It does. It really does.
Kind of.
I mean,
No
like
kind of about it.
Will Smith's kid is like in a white Batman suit looked better than that, which was actually kind of a ballin' suit to be
I put
honest.
the
It
link in
looked
the chat,
pretty
guys.
awesome. Yeah.
Like Jaden's nuts, but man, that's a fly outfit, Jack.
Yeah, they also got a version of Joker, and then the Joker toxin basically spread, making everyone else Joker.
Huh.
It's not bad, but you got to go in knowing what you're getting.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Batman though.
But the problem is they've got too many shows now. That's the issue.
Yeah.
We have 5 on
I-
CW. We have Gotham. We have their own platform with Young Justice Season 3. We have Teen Titans Go and the Teen Titans Go movie. And I guess that would be the only one you could say is in a completely different demographic. Everything else is going to fit into the same group. I don't have time to keep up with them myself. So how is anybody,
yeah.
It's rough.
we have time. How can I not keep up with it?
Well, I was gonna say we have to keep up because it's our job to keep up. I don't know how average Joe Sixpack
Right.
can keep up and
I mean-
still work a 9 to 5.
I'll be honest. Like, I mean, if I like from my perspective, I think the best idea is to literally just like run TV series as like mini series. Like, well, the seasons is mini series. Like, literally sit down and say, okay, we're gonna make a Flash TV show, and it's only gonna run for 5 seasons. So what can we do?
So
in
the
these 5
British
seasons?
way.
And like just cap it at 5. No matter how well it's doing, no matter what, it stops at 5. Because at that point, like it literally gives you the ability to branch off into other things. Like I'm going through the the Mark Waid run of Flash. Like after Mike Baron with, after Crisis on Infinite Earths. And then it goes into Jeff Johns' run where he was like, what if Wally West had kids? And then like that whole thing takes place. And then it's the Fastest Man Alive with Bart Allen. And then
Legion.
I
was just I was talking about.
And then like Wally comes out of the Speed Force with Linda and the 2 kids. And then like there's the whole thing with them. But it gives you the ability to like expand and like do more things. Because I honestly think The Flash would have been a great show if they had, instead of just centering on Barry Allen, if they were like the first season is about Barry Allen, and then like the second season is about Wally West, and you just make it a different universe. Then the third season is about another character, and so on. But
They're teasing they might do more Legacy in the new season. They're also teasing a wedding, because who doesn't love a good superhero wedding?
Oh yeah, the Crisis on Earth X or whatever, and
yes.
And this time we're gonna get a not speedster villain. I really feel like the Flash writers sat down and they're like, "This is gonna be great. We'll just have speedster villains every season." And then they got like midway through season 3, and they're like, "This is not so great."
Well, here's the weird thing too, because they released a trailer for the Flash for the new season 4, and like I feel like everything we saw in that trailer is going to happen in the first episode. The first episode, they're going to go find Barry Allen. They're going to bring him out of the Speed Force, I think is where he was at.
Oh,
okay, so I found because I did skip some episodes. He's not in the actual Speed Force in the sense that when Barry Allen died into the Speed Force, he's taking Jay Garrick's place in the Speed Force prison that he created.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they just got to get someone else to take his place. Right. It's as easy as that.
So he's not gone. At least we're not playing up the whole "I've died and I'm back."
Yeah. Run! The final crisis reveal. But no, like there's in the trailer, it's like, okay, like Cisco's like, all right, we got to find the Flash, we got to find Barry Allen. All right, Barry Allen comes back and he's in like a comatose state and he's got a beard. He's like, hey, I made you a new suit. You want to check it out? And then he's running around as a Flash. Guarantee that happens in the first half an hour. Like all that happens.
I like long term. Speed Force prison.
Yeah.
So in the Flash TV show universe, they've made a prison for evil speedsters in the Speed Force, where I think they have to relive like their worst day or something like that over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not in the comics as far as I know.
But it's actually not a bad idea.
It's clever.
Yeah, it is pretty clever. It's pretty cool. I like that.
Especially when you got guys like the Reverse Flash running around where it's like, oh, I can come at you at any time from any point in history. Maybe there should be a place we should lock those guys up.
Yeah.
Well, see,
maybe.
That's one of the things that is because I'm surprised they don't use Reverse Flash more frequently, because in the comics, the whole point of the Reverse Flash is like he cannot be killed.
Yeah.
Like the Reverse Flash exists in all times.
No, they do. He's I don't know, because I know you don't watch that one. They moved him to Legends. He was a villain for the entire season.
Yes, he was.
I'm talking about in the Flash TV show.
No, I'm saying...
I mean, not in Legends. I know he was in Legends.
No, what I'm saying is, like, they've continued to use the character. He's been killed, like, twice in Legends, I think?
Yeah. But not the best version, which is the Tom Cavanaugh version. I think that he was much better than the new guy they got to play the real Eobard Thawne.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I really like that guy in Flashpoint. Like, I loved him in the Flashpoint episode. Like, the one episode we got on one of the most iconic Flash stories.
Right.
Like,
he was better by that point.
Yeah.
I do agree. I think it would be great if, like... So we're doing this season. Let's just say it's a Gorilla Grodd season, and he's fighting Gorilla Grodd, and then just like every 5th episode, Reverse Flash runs in. I'm back, here to fuck with you.
Yeah. Or just causes
I'd be
problems.
okay with that.
I mean, he does that in the comics. Like even when he's not a main villain, we'll just out of the blue just Reverse Flash is here. He's gonna fuck with you.
Well, that's the weird thing.
I like the concept of Mad Thinker. I like the idea of like a thinking smart man villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was kind of like one of the things I was hoping for with like the whole Flash is like we would get the Flashpoint story. And granted, like there's no Wonder Woman.
We all hoped for that, Rob.
Yeah, there's
all of our dreams were dashed.
There's no Superman or anything like that. But it's like, God, what a wasted opportunity. They call it because now you can't go back. What are you gonna call it, Flashpoint 2? Like I mean, you can't go back.
Electric
you
Flash
can't do it over again. So I mean, it's like,
hey,
huh?
I was gonna say we might be getting a Flashpoint movie soon. Maybe that's why.
Maybe they're gonna call it Flashpoint Rebirth.
Oh.
I mean, the new the new one's the Flash Reborn, so that's what it is. I mean, I don't really know.
They're saving Rebirth for something.
Okay, because that's ultimately one of the things that I want to see with Eobard Thawne. That's why I felt like Flashpoint was kind of a wasted opportunity, because one, I mean, sure, it gave us, what, the future was different, whatever. We've seen a million alternate reality stories. I was hoping, for, like, with it being Flashpoint, that Eobard Thawne was like, hey, so here's, like, everything I've done in your life that made you who you are now. Like, you exist because of me. Like, just FYI, you know, like, I control that much of your life. Like, because that was the whole point in the comics.
Yeah.
The whole point in the comics, the Flash Rebirth, was it was Eobard Thawne basically saying, like, your life was molded by me. Like, I am God to you. Like, you moved to Sigil City because, like, I burned down your house.
Yeah.
And, like, you lost your mom because I killed her. And you were doused with chemicals because I arranged them the way that you needed them to be arranged in order to become the Flash. When you got struck by lightning, you ended up becoming my villain. Like, I've arranged your life. I've carefully laid out your life so that you will become who you are. Like, I hold your life in my hands. And that's one of the coolest things. And it's just like, we never got that. There's just, like, it's literally Eobard Thawne sitting in a cell the entire time, and he was like, see, you messed up the timeline. You know?
see, you did it. Why?
Yeah, see, you know, it's like, it's a glorified version of the one scene from Flashpoint when Eobard Thawne shows up and says, look what you did. Which, by the way, is one of, like, the greatest moments in that story. Dude, I love that.
Oh, no,
I
it
love
really
that
is,
so
yeah.
much. Like, it's so cool.
Solid.
It was such an, like, it's out of nowhere. Like, just so unexpected. He's just suddenly there. And it's like, what? It was super cool. Are you reading comics right now?
No, I'm going to do a single tweet review while we do this.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
wow.
seen those. Those are actually really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I gotta follow me on Twitter. I'm reviewing comics on Twitter
The single tweet review.
because I can only get like but I always get a good image out of these.
We are boring. It's so bad. He's reading
No, I'm
comics.
listening. I'm just like, oh, I didn't tweet today, just like we did the Instagram as we were setting up. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Did you hear apparently Twitter is going to be experimenting with doubling your character limit now?
Oh, thank God, my single tweet reviews will be more in depth.
Oh, okay. So you're
Yeah, I
telling me
was
that
gonna
like
say,
Twitter
it's the
will become
perfect
Facebook
time.
statuses now. Yay!
Oh.
Like,
I can't wait for that. People writing big, long, depressing, you know, paragraphs about how shitty their lives are. That's always fun.
Oh,
That's why-
no. I already get
That's why I don't
annoyed
go
with
on
Facebook because people don't do that. Side note, real quick. People don't normally, like, they'll give the big, long, depressing thing. Got it. Fine. Whatever. But the worst part is when they don't do it that way and they'll be like, man, today was a really shitty day. I really just need to curl up to a bottle of whiskey and just sit around tonight and just think about things. And they end it.
Yeah.
And they're like, please, someone ask me what happened in my day.
Please
Please.
validate me.
I need to know that someone cares. Houston, Houston, validate me. And because of that, I got to follow.
you gotta follow. Validate me.
Yeah,
I mean-
don't talk to me about it post. Yeah, exactly.
Like, guys, I'm in a really bad spot. Don't ask me any questions. You know?
I don't know, maybe
geez,
should have made
when
a
you
post
put
or
it
something.
that way.
I mean, it's a glorified version of that scene from Hook, when Captain Hook is like, it's like, all right, Smee, I'm doing it. Don't try to stop me, Smee. Don't you dare try to stop me. It's like, Smee, get off your ass and stop me, Smee. it's
Wow,
just
Hook
that.
reference.
But yeah, I don't do what.
I was gonna say, I legit went on a Facebook I haven't used since high school, mainly so I can look like, okay, who's married, who's got kids, who's in jail, or who's dead.
Yeah.
Well, you're from Canada, and the only thing I know about Canada is the Trailer Park Boys, so I assume everyone's dead or in jail.
Yeah,
It's pretty fair, yeah. That's the great documentary that is Trailer Park Boys.
That's how Canada is, from my understanding.
Life and
It
Times
is.
in Canada. Yep.
Thanks, Netflix, for telling our stories for us.
But yeah, I mean, it's weird to me because I'm kind of with being on this, and with the way that the shows are going, I think it's better to sort of consolidate, because the more shows they pump out and the more frequently they do it, the more they burn people out. And the faster they burn people out, like, the faster it comes to an end. And that's going to be kind of like, even the movies have kind of lost the magic and luster because Netflix doesn't cross over with them. Like, you sit down and you watch, like, Captain America, Civil War, or something along those lines, and they don't have half the heroes that are supposed to be in there for the whole story. And then you sit down and you watch Netflix, and they just keep referring to Avengers 1 as the incident, because there's just some bickering behind the scenes, I guess, between Jeff Loeb and Kevin Feige. I have no idea.
Is that really what it is?
As far as I understand, yeah, I guess that's the case. I don't know.
That's the rumor.
Yeah, that's the rumor. Like, they just...
So they
he's
can't
just-
reference the actual movie or something?
Well, probably because Jeff Loeb doesn't want to. Because, like, Jeff Loeb's the whole head of, like, the TV department. Like, he's the one that runs that whole TV side. So everything that's going on that's not in the movies is Jeff Loeb. He runs all that.
Apparently, there's like a lot of chest pumping and dick measuring going on between
Well, I
the
heard
movie
that.
people
I heard
and
that's why they
TV.
separated the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, they separated them from each other. I heard that.
Yeah. I would have just fired. Like, I would have just put them both in a room and just given them a stick and just said, whoever comes out here alive is the one that runs the whole show. Like,
That's fair.
That's how you solve that. Well, like, somebody's not going to make it out. Whether it's because they quit or whether it's because they don't live,
or they just don't live.
Somebody's not gonna make it.
Big Papa Disney comes down, breaks a pool cube. We're gonna have tryouts.
Yeah, it's weird.
Have you seen this comic side note?
What?
I know you're reading it, Joel. The Aquaman comic.
No,
This is probably the most beautiful comic out there right now.
it looks gorgeous.
Really, really pretty.
I lost interest.
No, jump in on this storyline.
Really?
So he's been dethroned. Aquaman, like side note,
Again.
Aquaman's been dethroned. Mara's on the Justice League now because of that, and they all think he's dead. And they changed over the writer and the artist, and it's beautiful. And it's telling a story of Aquaman, and he's not trying to fight for his throne. He doesn't want it back.
Wow.
He's like, no one wanted me. The kingdom didn't want me. The people didn't want me. No one wanted me, so I'm not doing it again.
It's not a hard to follow story because all the arcs are like 3 issues.
But this is the long one
like
right
2
now,
or 3
I think.
issues. Oh, okay.
He also grew his hair and his beard to look more like Jason Momoa because that's just convenient.
You know what they're gonna do? You know what they're gonna do with this, right?
What?
They're gonna bring back what was the name of that during the the missing year 52 or whatever it was when like Aquaman was dead, but he was just a hermit in the seas. Like you remember that?
Nah.
Yeah, like that's going to be what
When
they're
he
gonna
gets
do.
his hook.
It's gonna be rough. Oh man, I can't remember what they called him. Somebody in the chat remind because I can remember what they called him, but it's I don't know. It's weird to me because the Inhumans are like a case of the X-Men. Kind of getting back on the Inhumans topic, the Inhumans are where the X-Men were like 50 years ago. Right, like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby wrote them. Nobody cared because Marvel was just blowing up at the time. So people who were getting into Marvel Comics, a lot of them were coming from DC, you know. And so they're like, well, what's this over here? Or it was other people who never really had a reason to get into comics and were starting to get into them for the first time. But if you were reading comics before Marvel blew up, you were reading DC Comics. And that's the way it was. And so because of that, people who are coming from DC was like, well, I don't care about this because if I want to read about a group of teenagers with superpowers or who were superhero team, I'll just go read Teen Titans. And so like they had no reason to read the X-Men. They didn't like what they saw, so they said never mind. And then Claremont took over and it blew up. But it took a guy taking over the team and revitalizing it in its entirety, basically shuffling it and rebuilding it from the ground up in order to make it interesting. The Inhumans are the same way. Like no one's ever popular until they are. Like that's just how comics are.
Marvel keeps trying to be like they're popular. Here's 5 more books about them, and we're like we still don't like them.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it takes time because honestly, like it was the Inhumans. Marvel's never made a concerted effort to market and publish the Inhumans in a way that mattered until
now.
Yeah, until just now. Like the Inhumans were backup features. You had Inhumans Volume 1, which was not very good. I mean, they appeared in the Fantastic Four and they ran in Fantastic Four comics for like 5 years or however long it was. And then, they finally got their own solo comic and it didn't sell. Because people were just like, whatever, aren't really interested in them. But then you also had like Inhumans Volume 2, which was cool. Then you had Volume 3, which was a 4-issue miniseries where they took off into space and Black Bolt dethroned Ronan the Accuser and took over the Kree Empire, which led into, the whole War of Kings storyline. I mean, there's never been a concerted effort to market the Inhumans.
No,
and the problem
not until last year when everyone's like, just give us X-Men.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Is the way they went about marketing them was the issue. They went about marketing them as a replacement for the X-Men instead of like a companion to the X-Men. It's saying saying like, hey, here's this other team. The way we know that works is like Marvel canceled the Avengers in 2004 or whatever it was. Avengers Disassembled, 2005, and then they brought them back as like Avengers and New Avengers. You got 2 Avengers books running at the same time, and it was cool. Like it worked because you had your New Avengers team and a New Avengers team.
Back then.
Well, yeah, that's true. But what I'm saying is, it's
because even the Justice League was a shit team.
Yeah, but it's entirely possible to take characters who are similar in manner and publish them in 2 different books and still have them sell. It all comes down to the writing. It all comes down to what it is that people enjoy. Like that's the only thing that matters. I mean, it's you cannot take the standard of this writing is bad, ergo this person should not be this character, because if whether or not stories are bad is a definitive standard on whether or not a person should remain a character, then nobody gets to be a comic book character because everybody's had bad stories.
True.
I want to interject you with one of the comments in the thing.
What?
Legion is the only good comic show.
Legion is amazing. Yeah.
Legion is nice.
I was like, I have a feeling Rob will agree with this one.
Dude, okay, so as I understand it, the whole point of that show was to basically be like, hey, here's how it is for a person with like schizophrenia.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, this is amazing. I mean, it's not amazing to have
it was a really good show.
But the show was insane.
It did take me a little getting into because of the way the vibe was. It felt like 1970s.
It was hard to get into.
It did, man. It took me like 3 episodes to finally start liking it. It was crazy, but the first episode
it takes about 3 because you feel like you're going crazy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, and here's the thing: I've never been so enamored in like a comic book show like that before. I watched The Flash and I'm like, cool, this is fun. And I watched Green Lantern and I'm like, and then I watched Agents of Shield and I'm like, hey man, that's kind of cool for like everything after season 2.
You meant Green Arrow, right?
Or Green Arrow, yeah.
I was thinking, if there's a Green Lantern show that I'm unaware of, I have fallen so out of touch.
Yeah, dude.
That animated one was solid.
Show,
was it good?
No.
Oh man, I'm gonna look that up.
It was terrible. It was a Green Lantern show, and it was just about a guy walking around with a lantern. No, it was
just walking
really misleading.
Our budget's really low. I'm Alan Scott.
Yeah, it's Alan Scott. He can make green flames and so on. His weakness is wood.
I will also love Legion forever because it gave my celebrity crush Aubrey Plaza a big starring bit, so that's always fun.
She was incredible in that show.
Yeah, she was.
Dude, I've like her acting chops are because I've only ever saw her in Parks and Rec, and I think that's really all she's done in terms of TV shows. But she's just like this super cynical chick, and her character takes no real acting ability whatsoever because she's just like meh. And then she does Legion, and it's just, man, this girl can act. Damn.
Yeah, it's also too because she's one of those performers where it's like her public persona is like a very closely kept thing there, where it's like I don't feel like I've ever met the real Aubrey Plaza in like any interview or anything. You're always just playing your Parks and Rec character until Legion, where oh shit, you played a character.
Yeah, and it's really really stellar, but. Yeah, I know she played Shadow King. That was really enjoyable to me. But no, I mean, no comic book character is ever just like immediately popular. I mean, like Superman was, sure, but like he was the first. Like nobody had ever seen anything like him before. Yeah. Like Batman took time. DC almost canceled him. Green Lantern took like what was it, like 60 years for people to care about him? Like it was nuts.
Oh yeah, no. Green Lantern was like no one liked Hal Jordan.
Yeah, no.
They killed him off because he was so unpopular.
Dude, Green Lantern. Yep. Okay, a lot of people don't know this. Green Lantern's comics were canceled, and he was a backup feature in the Flash. Like, like there was a point. Like he was just not popular.
The small amount of Green Lantern fans were upset about Emerald Twilight, but the reason why you didn't hear much about it is because no one cared.
Yeah.
He wasn't a popular superhero until Jeff Johns showed up and said, "I'm going to write this sprawling epic space thing." That's why whenever someone's like, because like a lot of people are like, oh, go read Batman Dark Knight Returns and go read this 80s Batman story in this 90s. You never hear that about the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
The reason is because nothing good started until like 2004 when Jeff Johns started writing
exactly That's exactly it. Hey, like, because back then, if you were reading space stories, you were reading Superman. Superman's off in space. What was it, that Superboy, he's pulling planets out of a galaxy. I mean, you're reading Superman comics. You know, if you're reading those spacefaring adventures. Miles Morales, like that is a good point. Miles Morales was popular. Miles Morales was popular because of shock value. Because they killed Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe and said, "Here's Miles Morales." It was a turnaround, almost like that. And then Miles.
He was some lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, he was. Like,
so was Miss Marvel. So was Gwenpool. Like Marvel doesn't seem to understand. Like you just have lightning in a bottle. You got to stop trying to recreate the lightning. You can't.
Well, okay, but what I'm saying is, like, characters aren't immediately popular. I mean, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if you put Kamala Khan as, like, a character that wasn't even called Miss Marvel. It was just called, like, chick with crazy powers, Inhuman girl. I mean, whatever it is that you wanted to call her. Like, Miles Morales, the same way. It takes time. Whether you replaced her with, Miss Marvel, whether you replace Sam Wilson with Captain America. Wow.
That is an awesome-looking cover.
That's a crazy-looking cover.
I'm looking at Comicsology, and there's this, like, Alterna company.
Yeah.
But the cover, I'm gonna show you guys on here.
It looks wild.
Yeah. I'm gonna see it. Yeah.
But it takes time to like grow to grow on things. Okay, like Riri Williams is a really good example. Like people will say, man, Riri Williams sucks. They said the same thing about Wally West when Barry Allen died. And they said the same thing about Barry Allen when Wally West was eliminated during New 52. So I mean, you know,
the same thing about Rayner.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it goes. Like I mean, comic book fans don't like change, but you can't chalk it up to bad storytelling because if I walked up to almost anybody and I said, hey, all right, give me like the 5 best Iron Man stories, not including anything in the last 10 years. Well, I mean, You know, or give me the 5 best Iron Man stories without including like Demon in a Bottle, or the
Yeah,
story
there
where he
you
became
go.
like director of Shield, or like Superior Iron Man. You know, like don't include those, and give me like the 5 best stories. You know, or it's like give me like your 5 favorite stories of Thor, not including Jason Aaron's run. Like people are just like, well, you know, I don't know.
Characters.
Simonson.
Dude, I've been reading Thor since the mid-1990s. I read Thor when you had Heroes Reborn. I read Thor when you had Heroes Return. I read Thor when Dan Jurgens took over and ran all the way up until like when during the events of Ragnarok, like when Dan Jurgens.
That's
killed
right. He did have a
Odin.
long run.
Yeah, he had a huge run. You know, like I was reading Thor with Straczynski. I was reading Thor with Aaron. I've been reading Thor for a long, long time, and he's had some terrible stories. Like everybody has terrible stories. And but the point is, every character that's ever been created in comic books has, at some point or another, had bad stories. There was Rainbow Suit Batman. There's always bad stories along the field. But the idea is that the bad stories make us appreciate the good stories. And when it comes to something like the Inhumans, sure, like we're finally marketing them, but they've never been a character or a team on par with the X-Men because they were never published that way. They were always just viewed as a poor man's X-Men because they were backup features, or they were like 4-issue miniseries or 12-issue runs. They were just never a significant team. And so then now is the time to basically market them as a legitimate team, market them as a team that people can care about, make them interesting. Having an Inhumans movie or an IMAX, you know, premiere for a TV show that's ultimately a disaster does not do anything to help that.
No.
You know, instead, it literally sabotages the Inhumans themselves. That's why I say I kind of feel like it was rushed, because the Inhumans show, like the Inhumans were supposed to be a movie. It was supposed to be like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They pushed it out of the way. So when we got Spider-Man, everything gets pushed back. The Inhumans get knocked off. Just make a TV show or something, whatever, you know. And then they just throw it out there, and that's that. I mean, it's weird to me. I don't really get it, but it's a crazy situation.
I will say I like the IMAX premiere idea. I hope that doesn't kill the possibility of seeing more things like that in the future for potentially better shows. I say potentially because I haven't actually seen it yet. I'm the only one on the show who hasn't seen it. I'm gonna have to watch it on TV. Oh, have you now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's both watch it then. Let's have a watch party. Well, it comes out at the end of the month, doesn't it?
Yeah. So
Hold on.
They
They said it took 6 weeks. It took 6 weeks to make the. I don't believe that. No way. It took 6 weeks to make the Inhumans show.
Oh no, yeah, it was a rush job.
Wow.
So okay, I'm going to change the subject now because we do have another one we want to hit, but there's something else I want to bring up. Everyone who's in the chat right now is complaining about Riri Williams and they want Tony Stark back. Okay, you all need to wake the hell up. Tony Stark hasn't left. He's a goddamn blue Smurf AI. It's Tony Stark. He's there. He's having his own adventures. He's going off on the big world events. Tony Stark has not left.
and the first legacy arc back is literally called The Search for Tony Stark. So can you wait a couple weeks?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Tony Stark hasn't left, guys. The character has been there, and now he's going to get his body back. He's just a goddamn Smurf.
Wow.
Yeah, Smurf, take that.
And thank you, Wretched Egg, for subscribing with Twitch Prime.
Splooge. Splooge. Oh, man. I'm trying to find where it says.
See, hashtag Blue Smurf Tony AI. So all of you people who are whining and complaining because Riri replaced Tony Stark, no, I agree. I think Riri could be a good character, but I feel the way that Marvel has handled her is shit. She is not a good character the way that she's been handled. And I would 100% agree that I would rather have it just be about Tony Stark. But the goddamn argument that Tony Stark isn't even around, have you read a fucking comic? Because Riri had like 2 lines all of Secret Empire. It was Tony Stark every goddamn issue.
Y'all.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was Tony Stark.
Through and through. They bent over backwards to include Tony Stark.
That's what I mean. Half the people didn't even acknowledge that he was a Smurf. Spider-Man shows up and he's like, hey, Tony, are you upset that he's stealing your stick? And I'm just like, hey, Spider-Man, are you aware you're talking to a hologram?
Yeah.
Apparently
a drunk hologram,
not.
no less.
Yeah.
Like I'm a hologram intoxicated on.
He even made himself drunk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Without drinking. Oh, well, it was actually just a behavioral programming changing, and I'm working through it. What?
Oh, wow.
What? What?
Double changes in the programming, you know, it turned a 1 to a 0, and now I'm fucking shit-faced.
No, Seedbot, because none of the crappy characters were in Secret Empire. All the characters you want were there. Bruce Banner showed up. Tony Stark showed up. Steve Rogers was around. Odin's son was the Thor in that whole event.
Yeah.
He sure was.
Like, everyone's like, no, I want my main heroes back. I'm like, have you read the current goddamn book? It's just like I said in the beginning when everyone was like, oh my God, diversity. We have female Thor. We have Riri Williams. And I'm like, you know what? They're making comics that are not for you. Take a year off. Go read some DC. Read some Image. Come back. They will be right back to where you want them. And look, if you go into the comics right now, you have Old Man Logan. He's basically just Logan. No one even acknowledges him as being the alternative reality one unless it pertains to the plot. That's the only time he ever gets acknowledged as being an Old Man Logan. You have Blue Smurf Tony AI. Blue Smurf Tony is perfectly fine. He's here. He acts like Tony. We have Captain America who acted like Captain America and then he literally acted like the proper Captain America, and then you would add an additional panel where he would be evil. But he never like walked up to Deadpool and was like, by the way, you're just a jackass. Don't do what I say. No, he was Captain America, and now he's back anyway. So what does that freaking matter? And Odin's son had his own book, and he's in Worthy Thor or whatever, Mighty Thor. Yeah, he's in that one now.
He is now.
And he was the Thor in the Secret Empire. So
yeah. What do you want?
It's exactly what I told everyone. Well, if you don't want those comics, just don't read them. Your heroes will be back. You cannot tell me you've read all 60 years of Thor. Go read some of the old shit. Kill your time for a year.
It's like, here what you do. Set your watch until a new Avengers movie comes out, because the status quo is always put back by the time a new Avengers movie is out.
Yeah, it always is. Yeah, wait till Infinity War comes out. Like, they'll all be back together again.
Just go into your phone, go into the calendar setting, and set a little note for the movie, and then be like, oh, I can start reading comics again.
Yeah, and that's literally it. You know what I did when Marvel started doing all of this, and I got upset about, oh man, like, because as much as I don't mind the idea of Riri, I didn't like how they handled her, and I felt like that was it. That was the turning point for me. They replaced too many characters. So I just read more DC.
So okay, what don't you like about Riri Williams?
I just don't like how Marvel handled her. I think the character herself could be great, but the way that they handled her was making her a backup feature where she never actually spoke to Tony, and then immediately dropped Tony and put her in.
Yeah. I think a lot of that's got to be thrown at Bendis, too, because I get the feeling Bendis wrote it exactly how he wanted to write it with very little input.
I think the character could be great, because I feel like having a character who's smart as Tony Stark and could build her own armor and could be mentored by Tony Stark is great. I like that idea. But the way that Marvel did it was she's a backup feature, which didn't make much sense because it was like her origin, but it didn't make much sense the way they handled the character. And then Civil War happened. And at the end, she literally just shows up like, I'm the new Iron Man. I'm like, no.
Yeah, she became the new Iron Man because Tony Stark died, and she was the only person able to duplicate his technology. She was the closest thing to him.
No.
And so he gave
not
her...
at all.
That's exactly what happened.
The way they handled that, you could have very easily had Pepper Potts go back into her role. You could have very easily had Mary Jane at the time go back into that role. So they didn't give Riri that bridge to put her into that role. She literally just got a box from Tony Stark that said, come be Iron Man.
Yeah, because she figured out how to copy his armor.
Right, but that Tony Stark did not at any point, he acknowledged it within like a 2-panel thing. Oh, there's a really smart girl. Like there was no handoff for that character. I'm saying the character
sees a lot of himself
I like the character and I like her being a part of things. The way Marvel handled her is improper, is what I think.
Okay,
I chalked it up to Tony seeing a lot of himself.
Who was able to duplicate the armor of Tony Stark.
That doesn't matter.
No, it
doesn't.
He
has like 100 armors there, and every one of his friends has access to it.
Not everyone. only like a couple people.
Okay, I can name 5 people that have been in Iron Man armor. Mary Jane has been in armor. Pepper Potts has been in armor. Rhodey has been in armor.
Well, he died.
Captain America, who he had no idea was evil, can use that armor. Everyone.
When did Captain America use the iron
even
armor?
Spider-Man has an iron armor suit.
When did Captain America and Wolverine use it too?
That's what I'm saying.
When did Captain America use the Iron Man armor?
I guarantee you I can find a situation where that has actually happened.
We'll find it.
Boy.
I'm not going to find it right now on the podcast. But what I'm saying, though, is the way that they handled her introduction to the universe is where I feel a lot of the backlash came out of.
To me, it made sense.
It was pretty fast.
Right. That's what like. I feel like if they had handled her character better, all of the backlash that they're getting right now, because I feel like that's where it stemmed out of. When they officially swapped out Tony Stark, and the swap out was, he's dead, deal with the new girl. And that's how Marvel handled it. I feel like that's where, because then everyone was like, okay, what the fuck's going on? I don't want Korean Hulk. I don't want, because we didn't hear, people complained, but it got really loud when Riri came out of nowhere.
Okay, but I don't understand why that's a problem. Like no one has yet to explain to me. No one has given me like not even an argument to my satisfaction. Just like a reasonable argument for why it's a problem that Riri Williams is Iron Man.
No, you're not listening.
Okay,
you're avoiding my argument.
No, you're telling me that the problem you have is that Marvel rushed her out too fast.
Right.
Marvel was just like, here's a new Iron Man.
Yeah.
All right, but I don't understand why that's a problem.
Because it doesn't make any sense in continuity for the story or the narrative in general.
It makes perfect sense in continuity.
No, it doesn't. Because she was introduced as a backup feature and then just thrown in as Iron Man.
Yeah, as a character that duplicated Tony Stark's armor.
That doesn't matter. He has 100 armors. It's not
Nobody-
like there is one armor and one person duplicated his
No,
armor.
it's-
He literally fought a girl who duplicated his armor in the story where she invented armor.
The point that I'm making. the point that I'm
Mommy,
making
daddy,
is-
stop fighting.
No,
It's not the fact that Iron Man's got a ton of armors that matters. It's the fact that somebody who wasn't him was able to do it. There's never been an instance in the history of Marvel Comics when a person outside of what was the name of what was his name? Howard Stark's partner, the guy that made that really shitty armor, the one that made the Crimson Dynamo armor.
Stain.
No, not Stain.
He was the Ironmonger, yeah.
Yeah, the guy who made the crappy Crimson Dynamo armor and then gave it to Ivan Venko.
Yeah, shit, what the fuck that's the guy.
Venko. And that guy made
Mickey
like
Rourke.
a really crappy, crude version that wasn't as good as the one that Riri Williams made. So there's never been an instance in the history of Marvel Comics when anybody has successfully duplicated the armor of Tony Stark on the level that Riri Williams
But that
had.
doesn't matter.
Following the Iron Man history, the 60-some-odd years that he's been published, following all that history, when somebody suddenly comes along and has the ability to duplicate his armor, then the question is, okay, well, that's
In a
interesting,
dorm
like-
room with a box of scraps, no less.
with a box of scraps. Then it's like, okay, well, then let's see where this goes. Then he dies. And then it's like, okay, well, somebody's got to be Iron Man, and the closest thing to me is a 15-year-old girl who was able to duplicate my armor. So we'll have her be Iron Man. It makes sense.
No. Her being Iron Man now does. I never argued her character and her ability to make the armor and using her as a character. You keep trying to go back to why can't she be Iron Man. That's not what I'm saying. You keep trying to change the argument.
You're arguing.
My
the
argument
basis
is
for
how
why
she was
she's Iron Man.
introduced. Because she was forcibly put on the fans. The character's a good character, but she was brought in as a backup feature. She never directly met Tony Stark. They never had any words. Nothing happened between them. Out of the blue, she's now in the first arc, and then she didn't get any arc to properly grow into her character. She was tossed around with a dozen events, thrown on the Champions, and then thrown right into Secret Empire as the new Iron Man. She didn't have time to become Iron Man, regardless of her building the armor. The character herself is fine. You keep arguing, why can't she be Iron Man? And I'm not saying she can't. Marvel didn't introduce her properly. But you need to think of the comic like it's a television show. You're enjoying your television show, and then next season they open up the Flash. Next season they open up the next season of the Flash, and instead of it being Wally West or Jay Garrick or Barry Allen, it's Godspeed.
Okay.
Now look at yourself as a person who's not reading Iron Man nonstop. You're gonna watch the show and be like, "What the fuck is this? Who is this character?"
Yeah. And
But
that's why you watch the rest of the show to find out.
No, that's not how
literally
comics
it.
work, though.
No, that's exactly
No,
how
it's
comics
not how.
work.
No, not with the casual reader. It's not at all. They go to the comic book store, they buy one issues. Now, if you're going to go buy an issue of Iron Man and you're expecting Iron Man, and the title says Iron Man, and then you have I think it was 2 issues of her stumbling around trying to figure out what she's doing, and then we had the 3rd issue was her origin, and then we had the 4th issue. She actually got picked up by Pepper Potts and brought over.
Yes.
And then it was an event, and then she was on Champions. And then she came back, and we had this little plot that's going on right now where Tony Stark might be evil or not. That's where it kind of dropped off.
Yeah.
He was he may be an evil AI.
Yeah.
But even then, I liked the character. Once again, that's not the argument. I'm not arguing against her being.
I understand what your point is, but what I'm saying is that
the way
to
they
me-
handled it isn't improper.
But to me, that's a moot point.
No, because-
no. Her character was introduced at a time when Marvel was running event after event after event after event, so there was no time for her character to grow. So
don't bring her out
when-
then.
But why not? But what I'm saying is, you have her as give her time, give her character time to grow. I mean, like I said, it's the example of Wally West. Barry Allen was a Flash, and then 12 issues later, he wasn't. So
Right.
what I'm saying is that it takes time to build a character. Now, granted, it is a different situation because you grew up with Wally West, but literally
He was the sidekick.
But Wally West was a sidekick. He was a kid. Christ on Infinite Earths happens. He gets blasted with antimatter energy, and suddenly he's an adult. And now he's a Flash.
That doesn't
and then
matter
you
because
race
they
up.
knew who he was at that point.
That is true.
Same
but
thing
what
with
I'm-
Bart
but what
Allen.
I'm saying is that even then,
Even the same thing with Amadeus Cho. There's more of a standing for Amadeus Cho to just become the Hulk than there is for Riri Williams to come out of nowhere. Because even though the Hulk transition was a backup story in the Hulk story where we found it out, you know that Amadeus Cho and Bruce are friends. You know Amadeus Cho's in the universe.
you know if you're reading the comics.
But they did establish it better, is what I'm saying.
But I'm saying the casual. But using your example, in the casual reader, oh my God, man, they suddenly they open up a comic, and then suddenly it's Amadeus Cho is a Hulk, and it's not Bruce Banner. I'm confused. What's going on?
Right, but those first 5 issues were all about how that happened.
No,
and where is Bruce?
No,
that was the
issues-
backup story.
Yeah, I know what the backup story
Yeah.
is, but what I'm saying is that how many fans are actually going to go through and read a backup story? Fans are going to using your argument. The casual person is going to walk up there and they're going to say, okay, the Incredible Hulk with Amadeus Cho. Well, who's that? I mean, like, that's literally the case. But the point that I'm making is this. To say that, like, Riri Williams was just kind of a rush job, she was introduced, there was no time for her character to grow, and then to say that's the problem, that's every new character who's introduced. The point is to give her time to grow. The point is to let her grow into a character, tell stories that will show that growth.
But you don't have to do it with her as the title, is what I'm saying. Because she is the character that is the problem.
But
Duke, we have a new Robin right now.
Yeah.
And he had 2 years of floating through stories before he even got I think we just named him, and I think it's really dumb. I think it's like Canary or something weird.
No.
But either way.
Oh, Signal?
Signal, that was it. That's his name. It's Signal.
I know you're talking about Duke Thomas.
Right, but I was saying Duke. Amadeus Cho was established in the books, and yes, he got thrown as Hulk, but the entire first 6 issues, had Bruce in them. Bruce was explaining what was going on, that there was a transition, we had classic Hulk. Riri was in the backup of Iron Man, which wasn't that selling that well, and they established that she can build the armor. And then after Civil War, now she's Iron Man. And that was the issue, in my opinion, was that we rushed to that. We didn't introduce her. She wasn't a sidekick. Even Miss Marvel came out, and there was a whole entire period where she came out, and she wasn't even Miss Marvel at first, and they built up the character, and we got to it. Riri came out, and within like 5 or 6 issues, was the Iron Man in every event until Secret Empire.
Yeah, and it made sense to me, and I enjoyed it. Because to me, again, it's a moot point. Like, I mean, sure, like, she was rushed out. I will concede that she was rushed out. I mean, I can't argue that because literally the number of comics she was in points to the fact that she was rushed
Even
out.
Bendis says
to me,
he just wanted her out so that his daughter would have someone to look up to. And that's why I don't argue against her, because everyone needs a superhero that is theirs.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, that's
she's not bad in the
fine.
role. She's intelligent. She can build the armor. She's learning how to be Iron Man. She's not a drunkard yet, but
Yeah.
I think we can do without that.
I mean,
There's
like
time.
A writer's own
There's time.
motivations for-
Teenage alcoholism is rampant these days.
It's nuts. 15-year-old kids, man, getting crunk. No, a writer's
all the
motivation
time.
for why they create a story isn't relevant to me. I mean, I don't care why Brian Michael Bendis made Riri Williams. It doesn't matter to me. But the fact remains here that to me, yes, I will concede she's rushed out, but I look at that as a byproduct of the stories Marvel was doing at the time. Like,
Well, that's a Marvel problem.
Okay, but I would argue the fact is not that Riri Williams was rushed out. The fact is the manner in which the point at which her character was introduced. When her character was introduced at a time where you have all different Marvels, then you have Avengers Standoff, then you have Civil War 2, then you have Secret Empire, then you have Marvel Generations, followed by Marvel Legacy. I understand that it is like it's literally just like this super quick succession of events. But we have 18 months before the rest of the new event happens, whatever the case may be. She was introduced at a time when it was just event after event after event after event. And all the books did was tie in.
Yeah.
Every single solo series was a tie-in to an existing event. And so because of that, like I would argue that if there were not all these events taking place and the exact same concept happened, you had the Iron Man solo series, you had Riri Williams as a backup feature, and then Tony Stark dies for whatever reason, somebody figures out who he is and shoots him in the head, whatever the case may be, and suddenly she's Iron Man because Tony Stark delivers a box and says, here you go, here's my AI, and I'll be inside your helmet all the time, rambling and raving like a drunk person. Like, to me, it would still be fine because it's literally the progression of her character as she's Iron Man. Because in truth, to me, like that's what makes her intriguing. Is it's a 15-year-old girl who was able to duplicate the Iron Man armor, as primitive as it was, and then in turn, what she will do with actual Iron Man tech. That's interesting to me, and I'm interested to see where that story goes. So
Now, don't deny me this. That let's say there was no events happening, and Brian Michael Bendis had time to build this character up properly. Okay, and he spent the 4 backup issues. Okay, and he established her origin. And then you had at least, bare minimum, a 6 to 10 issue arc in which Tony was dealing with something, but Riri was brought into Stark Tower. He was learning with her, learning who she is, being introduced as a sidekick. That her becoming Iron Man would have gotten much less of a negative reaction from everyone, and people would have felt like she had at least earned the title in some manner. The reason why I feel Laura doesn't get shit for being Wolverine, she does from the right crowd, but not as much shit as say Riri does, is because people know who she is. She established herself as even though she didn't really work with Logan that much outside of like a crossover. People knew who she was. She was his daughter. She worked multiple times with him. She built up as a character.
She beat the shit out of him when they first met.
Oh no, it's cool.
I mean, it's
No, but she didn't become Wolverine then. She still went off to do her own thing. She became X-23. She built up her character. Now, I'm not saying you need 10 years of history like Laura had to become a new character. That's a little excessive on the amount of building.
Too. She's from X-Men Evolution. Yeah. Everyone forgets that.
Yeah, well, that's where she started. Yeah, and then Craig.
That's what I mean. I'm not saying you need that much, but don't even deny that if there was a 6-issue arc in the middle, just some random Tony Stark storyline, it didn't have to be a good one. But during that, Riri was introduced to him, or at least he was researching her, or it built up towards that. Like where that box even came from. Oh, even if it was a backup. he was off fighting Whiplash again for some stupid reason, and he would come back and like Pepper Potts is like, here's the information on that girl you had, and he's like, oh, Riri Williams, super smart, here's her history, and he went over her origin, and then the box arrived at her.
But that's what I'm saying. Like there were plenty of there were literally like plenty of instances and one-offs. There's a moment when Pepper Potts is talking to Tony Stark, and he's like, hey, do you have that information on that girl? And she's like, yeah.
But that's it. I can only think of that one time.
Yeah, there's like that, and maybe like one other moment, even then, like possibly. One that I can't specifically cite, but you can, I mean, okay, here's the deal. If you need to be told 1 + 1 = 2, then you got bigger problems going on. Like, I mean, if you need somebody to hold your hand and connect you through the dots in order to be told, like, here, like, like an elementary school kid, like a kindergartner, like here, this, that's the problem. Like, that's an issue to me. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Like, I look at that and I say, okay, so like, there's this 15-year-old girl who was able to duplicate Iron Man's armor. Like, sure, we didn't see in the comics when Iron Man was investigating her, but I'm assuming he did because he made her Iron Man.
Right.
So, I mean, like.
That's the same argument that Dylan had about Secret Empire, though. Because I like to argue for people who don't read the comics on a regular basis, because I'm trying to get as many people into this industry as possible.
Yeah, but I don't think that.
But you're making successions. You're allowing for things to happen because of your knowledge from comic books.
No, I'm allowing them to happen because I don't think that people who are people who are new to comics are that clueless. Like, I think at the very least, especially in a case like Riri Williams, they can read the comic.
You're arguing for people who thought that Iron Man was a robot.
Yeah, well, that much I get.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is the crowd you got to deal with. If Marvel had to spend an entire movie, marketing campaign, and everything to show you that he wasn't a robot and bring in Robert Downey Jr. so there was a big name attached that wouldn't be a robot.
So
there's still people who don't watch superhero movies. They're big blockbusters, but not everyone watches them.
So you don't think
so what you're saying is,
go ahead, Joel. We've cut you off entirely in like 20 minutes.
That's fine. It's heated. I was just gonna say. So at the end of the day, what you're saying is Rob has faith in humanity. Benny does not.
Yes.
Well, okay. I mean, I have a hard time believing that. Okay, here's a really good example. Back when I lived in Kentucky, there was a coworker of mine named Melissa. All right. I asked her who Steve Rogers was. She couldn't tell me. Like, we were having a discussion about something, and I was like, I mentioned Steve Rogers. She's like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, Captain America. She's like, oh, yeah, I know who Captain America is. Didn't even know his name. All right, that's fine. I have a hard time believing that even somebody like that would be able to sit down and read Iron Man. And while it does not explicitly have a backup feature or like 20 pages of him just scrolling through parchment or scrolling through pages and looking at the scroll, that she would be unable to come to the conclusion that he was probably looking her up behind the scenes.
Okay, well, I have a complete counter to that. How many video games have we brought up that make total sense to me, Natalie, Dan, and Houston, and you don't understand anything about it because that's not what you do normally?
Name one.
Storyline? Yeah. Nier. I brought up Nier and tried to explain the plot to you, and you were completely lost. That is perfectly normal for the Nier plotline.
Yeah, like what is it? The robots taking over the world or something like that? Robots taking over the world, and there's 2 factions of them or some shit like that? I don't know.
No, I mean, it's exactly. You just I don't know. What I'm saying is, when you go into a world you're unfamiliar with, you don't have that knowledge to be able to go, oh, Tony Stark is super intelligent. He must have been researching this girl.
Okay, but there's a difference. There's a difference between like sitting down and actually like playing the game versus sitting down and just kind of like, all right, and you're literally talking about a storyline of like robots and alien invasions and so on and so forth, which I get. I mean, I grasp that. What I'm saying is that with Iron Man, you have this guy where the first thing he tells you is there's a character.
What if they don't know
the first
Iron
thing?
Man?
The first thing that are you serious?
Yes. There's still people who don't know who Iron Man is.
They are a minority. I will bet you. Like, I'll bet you all the money in my pockets to all the money in your pockets.
Neither of us have any money in our pockets.
We have no money in our pockets. Like, that's the minority of people now.
What about the people, because I know people who like the Marvel Cinematic Universe but don't like Iron Man. Okay. How many people do you know who didn't watch Thor Dark World, didn't watch Thor 1 because they're not interested in Thor?
Yeah, there may be some folks out there.
But what I'm saying is, just because that movie's popular doesn't mean everyone saw it.
Okay, but that's like saying because people don't read Superman comics, they don't know who Superman is. I mean,
you can't take Superman, the first superhero, and a more recognizable symbol than Christ, and compare him to Iron Man.
That's the argument you're making.
Like literally.
No, you're taking someone that's more recognizable than Christ.
No,
Superman and Batman are more recognizable symbols than Christ. Iron Man is not.
You're saying, well, they don't read the comics and they haven't seen the movies, so they must not know who he is. A pop culture icon played by one of the most popular actors in Hollywood.
Right.
Dude, we could walk around. We could go to the old people's side of town, and I could walk around with a picture of Iron Man and say, "Do you know who this is?"
But you're assuming everyone will.
Iron
Man 3 was not a big selling movie.
I'm not saying everyone is, and this it's not even the argument that I was making. The argument that I was making is people have common sense. like people would be able to sit down and say, okay, so like this
If
guy,
they're
this
in
guy,
this
Iron
world,
Man.
though.
No, like they'd be able to sit down and just say, okay, this guy Iron Man, like says that some girl was able to duplicate his armor, and like if they read if they read all the comics, which you're assuming they read all the comics, like they start from the beginning and work their way through. If they read the comics and they're like, okay, all right, so I guess this guy, this is the girl that was able to figure out his armor. We know that because the backup features show us this girl figuring out his armor. So like she duplicates his armor, and then he dies, and then he goes to her. And in the stories where he's an AI is talking to her, telling her, yes, you're the one who figured out my armor. Now I'm going to teach you how to use it properly, and I'm going to expand your knowledge on my armors. Like, it's not like this, Riri Williams becomes Iron Man / Ironheart and then just like takes off to the other side of the world, never to encounter or see Tony Stark in any form or fashion.
They didn't bring him in right away, though.
No, but
that's what I'm saying with the problem with the way they introduced him. Or her.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, even in the introductory process, you knew that she was the girl who figured out how to duplicate Iron Man's armor. Like, you're literally told she's the one that did that. Like,
but once again, you're assuming everyone knows the whole thing with Iron Man.
I'm assuming they can read where it says.
And by
this
your
is the
own
girl
argument,
who armor,
fine.
his armor.
Maybe they can recognize Iron Man.
I just look at the pictures, man.
And you pick it up, and it's not Iron Man. There was no handoffs. What I'm saying.
Okay,
but we're gonna stop the argument here. Because even they're like saying Martha, so we can move on. Apparently, that's the way to say we're moving on now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move on to the next topic, and we're gonna let Joel take point on it. And you guys in the comments let us know, because we were looking at each other, so it's hard to read the comments. What you think is going on? Like, what do you honest opinions? If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, and Rob's right. Like, you guys can go ahead and decide. Look, what do you think? What do you think is legit? Do you think that the problem is the way she was introduced? Do you think she was introduced perfectly fine?
Well, a lot of people hate Riri Williams, so they're probably going to say, I don't like the way she was introduced.
Look past the character of Riri and the fact that you don't like Blue Smurf.
Yeah.
Look at the actual context of her being introduced.
Internet. Be rational. Be rational, Internet.
You are literally arguing with yourself now, because you literally just said we need to assume everyone has common sense and is rational.
No, I was going to say I think it's pretty sure.
There's people in the real world. Then there's how they act on the internet. You know just as well as I do. Everybody on Earth has multiple personality disorder. There's the internet personality, then there's the real world personality.
You literally just said you have to assume everyone has common sense.
Oh man,
which God bless you, Rob, for believing in humanity. Well, we don't deserve. We don't deserve you as a hero, Rob.
Everybody has common sense, but it's and understandably so, because I get this way too. Comic book fans have a very hard time differentiating and separating the idea of, sure, there's logic and basis behind why this character is introduced, and maybe they'll get better, and like, this character's not what I'm used to, and I don't like him. Like, that's
actually, a lot of people are saying that, like me, they like Riri, they don't like how she was introduced. Like, I felt like I had an inherent, as much as I liked the idea of Riri and someone getting his powers, like being able to build a suit, I felt like I just had an inherent, like, what the fuck is this when she was first introduced?
I didn't, because I understood it perfectly. I was like, okay.
I understood what happened. It was the way. But like, we're not going to get back into that argument. All right, so we got like, what, 10 more minutes left, and Joel has gotten to speak for like 30 minutes. So
the floor is yours.
That's fine.
Joel, is there a topic you'd like to hit, or do you want to have another debate about DC Metal versus Secret Empire, or should we just save that for next week?
That sounds like a whole other show there, especially because if we do it next week, we'll have more tie-ins to discuss and talk about.
This is true, actually. Yeah, Metal has more tie-ins coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Dude, I'm so excited for this.
Which I will say, to its credit, I like the unique way that Metal has been doling out its tie-ins recently. It's kind of cool.
Yes.
Let Joel talk.
Yes.
I'm happy you're excited, Rob, where it's like, where a lot of other events that, that we know when comic companies run them, it's like, look, all the big important books get special one-shots dedicated to it. Here they're flipping the script where it's like, no. Now it's the B-tier books and heroes that all get stories that are all part of a bigger crossover, and we're going to do two.
Yeah.
Kind of clever.
Yeah, okay. So I'm loving this dark multiverse thing. All right, so Joel, because you're following this whole thing.
Yes.
All right, so my understanding with this is, from what I can tell, from what it seems, is there's universal constants. Like there's rules.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. And like Bruce Wayne or so, like there has to be Batman, like an untainted Batman. Which is to say, like, whether it's Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, whoever, anybody can be Batman, but like there has to just be Batman in Gotham. There has to be the
Flash. Always be a Batman.
Yeah, like there has to be a Superman, a Wonder Woman, so on and so forth. When those rules get violated, then everything screws up. That's what it seems like to me. So like Batman is not just Batman. Batman takes the powers of the Flash, which doesn't.
Did you see the preview for the Cyborg one tomorrow?
No, don't ruin.
No, they just put one panel out.
Oh, okay.
And literally, it's just Batman in the Cyborg suit going, I have this now, Cyborg. So I'm like, is he just going around taking everyone's powers?
I don't know. I guess
like
that's
this
what it is.
idea.
It's Dark Knight's Metal, and it's just Batman taking everybody's powers.
It's
like
a cool idea to see a Batman who's petty and jealous and has power envy.
Yeah, Batman who's just like he's just a guy that never got ahead in life. You know, he's like a custodian at Wayne Industries at his own company. But no,
Ouch,
that seems to be the case because Batman stealing the powers of the Flash would not seem to me to be a reason for why like his world is being destroyed. So
no, he said the world was already being destroyed.
Was it?
So the way the plot worked out, it showed how the Red Death was created, right?
Yeah.
Then they jumped ahead to Barbados. I know it's Barbados. Barbados showing up and basically saying, your world is ending. Come with me now. There's no way you can save it, and we can save other things. So, like, because there's a passage of time in that, you're not the only one that couldn't tell it, because I've had a few people say like what happened, but it seems like we have origin, why he joined up with the Dark Metal group, and then his meeting with Barry, like two different.
That's going to probably kick off the new Flash tie-in.
It looked like it happened pretty fast because, like, I mean, it
I'll pull
literally.
it up. I don't think it was instant. I know the Barry Allen thing is pretty like.
They compressed a lot of time there. I just assumed my idea was the Dark Universe was so fucked up, there's a crisis there every day.
No, I'm talking about the Red Death story.
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah.
Yeah.
Because it looked like it was a story in like a linear, like
no, there is a time jump because like he apparently is like the hero that they needed for a while.
Yeah, so there's the universe being destroyed or his world being destroyed.
No, that was not his world being. That's the end of the book.
You also got to remember too.
Yeah, that's him now being here.
You also got to remember, Batman Who Laughs is telling this story to us, the reader.
Yeah,
so he probably moved it up.
So he steals the powers of Flash. He comes out as Red Death, and then like runs over to
my world is
universe.
breaking apart.
Yeah.
See, no, this is him fighting the villain. So this is a passage of time.
See, I didn't think so. See, my idea was that he came out of the speed and then immediately took off and killed all the villains. That's how it looked like to me.
Like instant.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, like super fast. Like he immediately came out, he killed the villains because it looks like a linear succession. Because the story's not being like, because usually what DC would do in that if that was the case, because Scott Snyder did that, it would just be like then. It would. That's
that's simply what they do.
Yeah. So
I mean, it says ever since the Red Skies appeared.
Yeah, it says crime has escalated. So I mean, I don't doubt that it looked like the world was ending before he took the power, but see, there's no guarantee that it is because it doesn't. I mean, it kind of looks like it is, but it kind of looks like it isn't, and we don't know. It's him just like stealing the powers of the Flash. But there's no reference to the idea that like I need your powers to save the world. It's just I need your powers because the whole Bat family's dead and like all that stuff. And like I just need to save Gotham. I mean, Joel, what do you think? Because that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to read it and get it like a grasp here.
I think you could read into it either way. Either a bunch of time passed or no time at all passed.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he literally just shows up in Earth Zero, which I don't even know how he got there. I assume he just used the Flash's power to break through barriers. But here's
Wait, what do you mean? How he got to Earth Zero?
He's in Earth Zero.
Yeah, that was
First
Barbados bringing them over when Batman became the Gate. This is right after they all show up at the end of Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's how they got there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying I feel like this is a passage of time because here's Barbados telling him to follow him. He says, "Tell me more." Then we jump to this. They've arrived.
Okay. Yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and now he runs into Barry and Iris and all of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then it looks like when I do Dark Knight Metal, I'm gonna have to like reference that and be like, by the way, guys, we didn't mention it in that video, but here's what happens.
Yeah, just to say.
Yeah. And so
here's a
I like
question.
Dr. Fate poaching him though.
Dude, okay, so
That's fun.
Dude, that was a
very
cool
injustice.
Yes, dude. Okay, so I mentioned that in the video, and I was like, dude, Dr. Fate showing up is like the Watcher in Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, man, shit's getting ready to pop off, man. Dr. Fate appearing.
It's also a good setup to be like, hey, if you want to see what happened next in that, go read the Flash tie-in and go read Bats Out of Hell, which is going to be its tie-in.
Yeah.
Canonical, man, the Jokers are going to be explained in the next Batman arc, which I think is after the next. I think the next issue is the end of the War of Joke and Riddles.
Yes,
yes.
Okay, and then Tom King said they will go into the. So basically, the Three Jokers plot is tied in to starting a month before Doomsday Clock, which makes me think it's going to tie into that.
Yeah, that makes
Interesting.
sense.
So.
Dude, I'm still trying to get my head around this dark multiverse thing. Like, where did it come? Like, how come we've never heard about it until now?
It's all our fears and negative emotions on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah, that is a Grant Morrison story. Like all of humanity's just irritation and anger formed, it coalesced.
I remember when they announced this,
Dark
though, they said that
Multiverse.
this was going to lead to other stories in the Dark Multiverse.
Which I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Actually. Because, I mean, looking at some of these worlds, man, like, I want to know why the Bat family died. Like, that's what I want to know. Like, who killed them all?
Does it also mean if there's 52 regular Earths and there's 52 Dark Multiverse Earths, does that mean there's actually 104 Earths?
Okay,
in the
are we
DC
really
canon?
going to count up the multiverse worlds?
No, we're not going to count.
Because if you want to play that one, there's also like the pre-crisis, the post-crisis.
Well, no, they're totally different. That was the point. Infinite Crisis brought back a different multiverse.
Well, and never mind the fact that we already play off the multiverse idea from the TV shows, the movies. They don't have it. They're not in the 52. There's more than 52. Can we just accept this?
Yeah.
It also begs the question that, like, if the Earth we've been seeing this whole time has been good Earth, has been light Earth, how does that explain Earth 3 then, that is almost just as evil and fucked up as Dark Multiverse?
So that's why I asked the question about the rules. That was the only thing that could make sense to me. Is there's like universal rules. There's universal laws that can't be broken. And if they are, then like everything goes topsy-turvy, right? Because like Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, Countdown, yada, 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 gave us the monitors, right? And the monitors are just watching the universe, and they were like, hey, as long as they don't cross over, we don't give a shit what they do. Like, it doesn't matter what goes on in their worlds. But, I mean, literally, Earth 3 is just like evil members of the Justice League, but it's still the Justice League. Like, it still functions in its entirety.
And keep in mind,
so.
I mean, the Crime Syndicate is known for just being straight up evil, but there have been storylines where they end up having to side with the good guys. They're not, like, downright dark and evil. The Crime Syndicate only came to Earth 1 or 2, whatever we were on for Earth 52. Because they were trying to find a way to stop the Anti-Monitor.
Yeah, dude, our world's being raised.
That's what I mean. Like they had regardless of their methods of getting there, that was what they were doing.
Yeah, Anti-Monitor came over, man. He got drunk and he just started attacking people. So we got it. We're leaving the party, man.
Also, Earth 3 too. If the rules are that it's everything flipped, those who are normally evil on the other Earth are good. So you get like the jokester and everything. So like the good evil dynamic still exists. It's just switched.
Yeah, which I really wish they would go back and just like, dude, I would read a line of comics just called Earth 3. Like,
Me
just
too.
a line of stories just about the Earth 3 universe. And I would love those. Those would be amazing.
So, okay, there was something else people wanted to talk about before we close the episode, since we're going to move over to that.
It's how to pronounce Barbatos. Is it Barbatos? Is it Barbatos?
He says it's Barbados, which I actually agree, because I believe I've heard that.
Maybe
Probably.
it's Barbados.
I was calling him Barbados because I thought it played into the whole he's a giant evil bat.
That would make more sense.
Yeah, I say Barbatos, but then that sounds like Barbasol, so that's not terrifying at all.
He's a shaving cream Batman.
My God!
Just running up on folks, just spraying shaving cream.
Someone brought up something that I wanted us to mention. I said we didn't have anything really to talk about, but we would go ahead and mention it real fast. I'm trying to find what it was. Oh, Mr. Oz.
Yeah, what about him?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about
it.
We haven't talked about him on the week before.
Dude.
Cool shit.
Okay, Jill, since you apparently have nothing to say on it, what's first? Go first. We got to let you go first, so you don't talk when it's Robin. See, here, what you guys don't realize is here's the problem. Skype gives us a delay, so when we're all on Skype, we're kind of used to dealing with it. Rob and I are right here. There's zero delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get a word in edgewise these days. But yeah, Oz Effect, really cool. I think a lot of people called the twist, but that doesn't matter because the important thing is what does it mean and how did we get here? And we're going to find that out in the next issue. What made Jor-El this way, if it's even Jor-El?
I have a theory on this, though.
Yeah.
It's not Jor-El.
That's my theory.
You taking my theory.
No, I did not take your theory.
My theory is that it's not
once,
Jor-El.
though,
That
with,
whoever this is,
Nixie.
be it Ozymandias or whoever, they're trying to get Superman to side with them in this battle against Dr. Manhattan. So they went with a figure that he would recognize and want to side with, his father.
Yeah, I still think it's classic Lex Luthor because I think classic Lex Luthor would be smart enough to pull it off.
So it's like Contact. I've taken a form that is more appealing to you.
Because for me, okay, and everyone's like, "Oh, we thought it would be Ozymandias," and I'm like, they never said it was a part of Doomsday Clock or the Watch. We all thought that, but they never confirmed that. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to tie in. And for me, while it could be cool to be Jor-El, I feel like what's like a 4-year buildup for this?
Yeah.
It's just kind of a letdown to what it could have been.
Well, I don't know though. I mean, also remember, like Jor-El is the one guy who's never come back to life. There's never been an instance, and even then, we got the story where he was whisked away. Yeah, like he told the story, and that explains why his wife's not there. So, I mean, if it really is Jor-El, that's massive. That's a huge gamble because like Superman's dad has never come back. That's the point of his character. One, because like he's the last son of Krypton, and two, because like it's literally him learning lessons from his dad from afar. And even then, it takes away the whole purpose of like Jonathan and Martha Kent. Yeah, because like they were the parents that taught him everything he knew in absence of his biological parents. I mean, it's God, man, it's not unprecedented. right? Like the bottled city of Krypton,
No.
the last city of Krypton.
Absolutely.
Just sitting in a bottle, the Brainiac shrunk, and that was it. And he could never grow it back. So, I mean, we've seen instances where, like, you know, Kryptonians, like Supergirl, so on and so forth, have survived when they weren't supposed to. But I think, I mean, that's... Now, if it is, if it's true, all right, let's assume, for example, that it really is Jor-El.
Okay.
All right? He explicitly states, humanity does not deserve to have my son as their savior. Right?
Which is so clever to see that inverted, where before it's like, oh, I will send my son to Earth, my treasure. He will be their defender, their hero, their icon. To see that love twisted.
Space Jesus.
In case you guys forgot, Jor-El went to Earth, and he looked like Tom Welling, and he had an adventure in the 50s.
I vaguely remember those things.
Dude, if you really want to see a comic where they have, like, actual people, like actual actors, like, that look like the characters, read New Universal. They're just crazy. Like, all the characters in that story look exactly like real-life actors. But the fact remains, no, dude, like him showing up and just being like, humanity does not deserve my son. My question is, one, why the sudden change of heart? And two, what's he going to do? Is it going to lead to a battle between, like, Superman and his dad? Because if it does, dude, that would be amazing.
That seems where we're going.
Dude, I'd be so hyped. Oh, my God.
Not only
so
does
awesome.
it seem to be going that way, but it seems like Jor-El is going to try and corrupt John Superboy to his side, is what it looks like.
Dude, okay, tell me your theory about Superboy.
Oh, so this is Rob and I were looking up events in DC, and I've not heard anything about this. What's it called?
I don't know. It's one where it's in the future. Superboy the future.
It's like a Superboy future event that's coming out in January.
You looked up DC events on Wikipedia.
Yeah, I just did that.
Yeah, the publication history of DC. It's right there on the second one.
Okay. Yeah. So they have one
Sure
in
you're not
the...
thinking of the crossover?
There's a crossover coming up, and it gave me a theory.
I thought it was a Superman family thing.
Yeah. Not the final days. There it is. Super Sons of Tomorrow.
There we go.
The Batman of Tomorrow travels to the present to prevent a cataclysmic disaster before it happens, revealing that Superboy will be the one responsible for the death of millions. But Superman will do anything to protect his son. My theory, that's the new Superboy Prime.
Dude, I'd be so hyped.
They're going to hype up John as being Superboy Prime.
Dude, John.
Interesting.
Dude. Superman's son becomes the new Superboy Prime. Like, that would be nuts.
What would you do, John, the Superboy Prime, this whole time? They make us love him. And now he turns into this, like, evil, megalomaniacal guy.
That'd be amazing.
God, and then you could make it a whole story about, you know, like, destiny isn't written. You could go, like, totally Terminator with it.
Yeah.
It would be insane. I'd be so hyped.
Everyone's asking who the silent guy on the left is. To fill the 4 boxes, I grabbed one of the guys working in the office. So Houston's just sitting there. You can wave, Houston.
Or not.
He's right there, so... Man. So, okay, we're going to close out the episode today then with that. Yeah. Okay? I apologize to you, Joel. We have to get used to if Rob's going to sit here letting other people talk.
The dynamic has totally
also a very
changed.
Heated debate, too. So.
It was. I didn't want to step into that when I'm like, nope, going to catch a stray hand if I step into that fight.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you for joining us today. We will be back next week with more Weekly Poll. We'll do our debate on Secret Empire versus DC Metal at that time. Hopefully, Sal will be back, and we'll have the 4 crew, Rob, Benny, Joel, and Sal. And if you just want to chat with me and Rob, or me and the silent guy on the left, we stream here every Tuesday before the Weekly Poll, Wednesday at around 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern. And then Friday, Saturday about the same time. So we start about noon our time. And we stream everything from Destiny to Overwatch to whatever we feel like playing at the time. So if you just want to chat about comic books, come join us. That'd be great. You can always support this Twitch channel and this podcast by subscribing. We appreciate that one. And don't forget to check out Joel's channel, Caped Joel. Caped Joel. It's a good channel. He reviews all your comics. And if you don't want to wait for his whole video, go check out my Twitter. I'm doing single tweet reviews.
I see what you're doing. Hey, I do more than that now. I'm doing men's fashion now. You see this shirt? I got it from Trendy Butler. They're a good company.
Oh my God, Joel, just pick a topic and stick to it, man.
Oh God, man.
Never.
We may have monopolized the entirety of the Weekly Poll, but at least we had a topic.
All right, guys. That's the end of today's stream in its entirety. If you were one of the earlier ones who have been here for the last 5 hours with us, thank you. And if you're the ones who just showed up for the Weekly Poll, thank you. Yep. On that note, Alan Scott.
Peace.